Hey guys, William Fino here today with another LEGO Hero Factory Classic review. This time we're going to be looking at the last of the 2011 winter sets, which would be Firelord, which is the last of the fire villains, the leader of the fire villains. So, I can't reach. This is Firelord. This is box. It's a standard $20 size box for a buildable figure. On the back here, he does face off against Evo and Stormer 2.0, and we see his function of shooting the sphere. So that's enough of the box. Then we have the instructions here, which are a little bent, just because that's the way I had them in the package. But same picture of Firelord. Open it up here to get a nice big view of Evo and Stormer 2.0 against Firelord. I think it's funny how Stormer has his weapon kind of positioned backward with the spike in the front. But it's not a huge deal. In the back here, since this is a $20 set, you get the most advertising, I think, in the instructions. But you have the website here, and then you have the game in Hero Factory FM radio here. And then you have a large size Firelord and Hero Factory 2.0 big advertisement. And then the Hero Recon Team advertisement, and then LEGO Club, and all that stuff. So that's that. The instructions. And now on to the sets. So this guy, as I said, retailed for about 20 bucks. So he was the big Titan set, as some people classified them when Hero Factory was just starting. And I just say that they were big sets, big villains, or leaders. So what was I starting off with? I think parts and building and construction. Well, this guy kind of started a new way of building large sized characters. He did not do it perfectly, but he did kind of start the standard large leader villain kind of build, with the exception of Witch Doctor. But for the next, I think, 3 years, right, because Brain Attack didn't really have characters. Black Phantom, I guess I should say Black Phantom is a good example of when they reused this kind of design. But I know on Raga XL it did kind of come back to a little more complex, but what I'm trying to say is Firelord laid the base for a couple other large style sets. So even though this was new now, it did kind of get a little redundant after a couple years with other big sets. But with that said, it wasn't necessarily a bad build. I kind of liked it. It had, large, tall legs, and I liked that the legs, whoops, kind of broke there. The legs are very thick, except for this kind of space up here. But for the most part, the legs are pretty thick. Now, I do prefer them going all the way up here. Just because this is very, very bare. As you can see, this is a problem I have with the set, where this orange limb here is very, very exposed, and that was a problem. And I think LEGO sort of improved upon what it looked like here. Let me take a look back. I think Black Phantom has. I mean, yeah, they kind of did. They put armor right here, but it still left the hips kind of exposed and open. But I think it's not flawless, but it does its job of making the legs look more. I mean, I would say big, but I'll just say intimidating. Like the legs make him look beefier and larger. And then the arms are kind of just standard, but they are also restricted, or I should say stabilized, with this sort of construction here, which does kind of make them stiffer, but I think it helps in the long run because they wanted to make it symmetrical, and this weapon ends up being bigger. So I think it helped a lot, because if not for these, I think the arms would probably be, the joints would be a lot weaker and a lot more loose and worn out by now. So I think this little construction here that they used on both arms does kind of help a little bit in making kind of the arms look beefier, him look more robotic. But yes, it does hinder articulation just a little bit. And then they had the style of open ball joints as elbows. This is one of the first sets that did that, kind of abandoned its closed ball joint rule with the elbows, and I think Drill Dozer did it too. But this is on an open swivel here, so you don't have any restrictions there. This kind of makes for some odd armor placement. I do know on the box his arm is in this position, and that bend it because of the armor clashing, so I just leave it like this, and then you can bend it just fine, which I think most people just do if they have this set. And then over here we have just this weapon. There is no armor here, so that can make this underarm look a little bit bare, but I think it's not a huge deal. As you can see, it's very, very covered up here, so you can't really tell that there's no armor there except for this little hole right here, which again is not a big deal. And then on the back, we just have exposed kind of Technic build, but then you can cover it up with these sort of jetpack, jetfire shooter things. But I believe were used as jetpacks, but on the cover of the box art they were advertised as just shooting out of his back, like so, so that you can kind of see them. And then, yeah, so you can just move those around. And then I think the weak point actually of this set is probably the torso. Now with the torso, which I have to clarify, this torso is orange, which is very interesting because orange isn't a very dominant color in the spectrum of colors that LEGO usually uses in large figure sets. Most just Hero Factory or Bionicle, but they have been using orange in Star Wars a little bit more. What I'm trying to say is an orange torso is kind of an odd choice. Whoops, I just ripped the add-on out. I was trying to rip the armor out. Yeah, so it's a bit of an odd torso color because you can't really use it, and it's also really big, but they did release other orange parts later on with necks and everything, so you can use it now, but back then it was kind of hard to make a character out of this. It was also hard because LEGO had introduced this new large torso, and there wasn't a lot of ideas on how to cover it fully up because LEGO themselves kind of struggled with this. As you can see, the shoulders here, you do have kind of good shoulder coverage. It's nice that they added the shoulders, but as for the rest of it, it's kind of gappy, you know. I mean, it doesn't look finished at the top. The torso armor just obviously wasn't enough to cover all of this up, so that's why, I mean, it looks better with the bent neck, and you can't really notice it now with the bent neck, but just as its own, I don't think this was the best way of covering up the torso. They did introduce the bulk, I call it the bulker with the torso add-on, where it goes on right here and then it kind of adds height to the torso armor, but it still didn't fully do its job, but we'll talk about that when we get to later sets. As for like interesting parts, obviously I talked about the torso being orange, these bone pieces being orange, but I would say that these pieces here, these long fire pieces are pretty interesting, and I think people still use these to this day. They're very nice pieces. I think they're nice detail pieces. And then it also comes with a lot of gunmetal parts. You got these gunmetal, I believe these are 6 long gunmetal parts. And then I think these are 5 long on the very bottom of the feet. And then you get this nice kind of royal, more style looking armor and gunmetal. So there's a lot of nice gunmetal parts on this. If you turn the head around too, you get the drill dozer head in gunmetal. And then these nice kind of spiked talon parts in red, which is cool. But I do think that if it stayed gunmetal black and red, maybe with a little bit of orange accent, it would have been fine, but unfortunately they added silver, and the silver to me doesn't really make any sense. You can't really see on the camera that well, but maybe you can if I zoom in, but you see the silver is a much brighter color from the gunmetal, and I think it's really odd how they added silver in for the torso. But and I know the gunmetal parts exist because I believe there was like a gunmetal. There was gunmetal on someone. Who was it? It doesn't really matter right now. But there was gunmetal on someone, and they could have used it, and they didn't. And I don't really know why. It doesn't really add to the look at all, but yeah. Another gripe that people might have with this is the open ball joints on the back. That could have been covered up with something, but they didn't cover it up. Oh, and then functions. Obviously, we got the functions here. Just the sphere launcher there just shoots the sphere out. I'll just take this out. And then there isn't really any more functions with them other than, I guess some people consider articulation a function, but I already went over that. But I do have to say I like the weapon design here. I think it's cool. I like how they reused Furno's weapon. I would have preferred they would have used the red color that they introduced later in Jawblade from 2012, but they stuck with orange, which is okay because it's kind of the accent color for this set. You know, I think that's all I have to say about this guy. I think he's kind of average. I'm going to give him a 7.5 out of 10. I do believe that it was a good design basis for the next couple of sets that would use it and improve upon it, but they didn't execute it perfectly, and I find this guy looking a little bit awkward and a little bit exposed, and that altogether makes him look a little bit unfinished. So yeah, he's not perfect, but I think for the $20 price mark, you got a bit of parts, nice bone pieces, nice armor pieces. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about him, 7.5. And my next video will be the overview of Winter 2011, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you guys later.